Hello and welcome to another episode of Blocks Populi, a Cryptowriter podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Lovejoy, and today I'm joined by the board of the first Eden mock elections. So the four lucky individuals that were able to rise through the ranks and end up in the final position. And we're going to do a little recap of what they learned and what to expect going forward. So, without further ado, I'm joined by Chris Barnes, Ami Heines, Mike Manfredi, John of Boyd, and I'm your host. So, Chris, let's start with you. How do you think this process has been so far? What was it like for you being on the board? And you are the elected Satoshi in this last run through. And what do you see for Eden going forward?
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Brandon, for having me. You were my very first interview after this process, and now you'll be my last. So it's nice to have gone full circle. Yeah, the experience has been amazing. I've met tons of amazing people in the ecosystem that I had peripherally known just from being a lurker, but never really participated. So it's been awesome. The three gentlemen on the board have been extremely helpful to kind of help me learning about MSIGs, which I didn't fully have a grasp on, and just getting more involved with how the ecosystem works. And so, yeah, it's been an exceptional experience. I'm eternally grateful, really, for this opportunity, which I did not expect to happen, certainly going into all this. Going forward for Eden, I think the future is extremely bright. There's some, maybe it's not growing as fast. The membership isn't growing as fast as some might like to see, but personally, I'm kind of okay with that. I think we're getting the right people who are joining for the right reasons, and we don't have this big swath of funding that will draw people in for maybe reasons that aren't growing the community and growing EOS, but instead just to fill their own personal bag. So I'm okay with the rate of change, and I think gradual growth is certainly more sustainable. And I'm pretty excited about tomorrow and the election and what comes out of that. I think a lot more thought is going to go into this election, and we're going to get a lot more quality ideas and more thorough and well thought out proposals and pitches now that people have a much better idea of what's going on and how it all works. So pretty exciting. Baby steps. I mean, yeah, it's going to be a pretty fun ride until the end of the year here. So thanks.
Excellent. Ami, is it Ami, or am I pronouncing your name right?
Yes, it's Ami. It's not Amy.
Yeah, I resisted saying Amy, so I did that well.
It's short for Amichai, but it's hard to pronounce in English. So Ami is shorter and easier. I was surprised to be part of the board. I just presented myself and got humbled and happy to be elected. And then it happened to me the second time, and I got to another level. And then since this was a small group, we just happened to be on the board, and it was a great experience. I really enjoyed talking to people that I didn't know. Some of them I knew before, some of them were new to me. And I think a small group of 4 or 5 or maybe 6 people in these 50-minute time limits is very good. It's better than the original idea of having 10 people. And I enjoy the process. I usually resent and I really dislike politics, but this is so much different. And I got to know Chris, Mike, and John of the board, and we had regular discussions. And it was a very positive experience overall.
Awesome. Yeah, it sounds like it was quite the. It's been quite the time. How long has it been actually since the first election? I kind of lost track of time.
2 months.
Yeah, just over 2 months.
2 months now. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, John, what's your takeaway, and what do you see going forward?
Hey guys. Yeah, I guess for me, my takeaway was, I built something that was useful for the community at large, and that was recognized and rewarded, which is not always the story in blockchain, and when you're talking about common goods, it's difficult to fund projects that benefit community that don't have a strong, built-in business model. So this is a great example of the ability for the community to come together and to decide to fund this kind of public works type projects. So to me, that's very promising to see that in the trial run, and I'm looking forward to, the next evolution of that in the next trial run. Hopefully, we will have a larger project. We'll bite off a slightly, bigger, meatier project to tackle, and show everyone that the process can scale, which I think is important, and improve morale, in the EOS ecosystem, show people that we're active in building.
Very, very cool. Mike Manfredi, what do you have to say for yourself?
Yeah, when we say a very positive experience, right? We've basically each said that. To put a little color to that, this process, this entire fractal governance process is really aimed at bubbling up consensus builders, and man, it just can't be understated or can't be overstated how collaborative this group was. And it's not just the four of us, right? We, something that I'd love to hear some people talk about on this call is listening to constituents, right? People reached out to us and made requests and made suggestions. That communication was happening. That is extraordinary, right? That's where else do you have an organization of people where that communication flows and that coordination is happening ongoing. This community is full of bright, committed people, but man, it was relatively easy to jump on with these guys and make decisions on stuff. We had a budget to spend, so that kind of made it clear. Here's the job, right? Here, the outcome is spend this money. And then the how was really what we needed to discuss. And even when that was done, we continued to look at, well, okay, what else is there to do? It's not just about spending the money. Like we have a goal. We have a goal with this money, and we want to serve that. And so as soon as everything had been paid out, John's really awesome work got done and paid and announced, we started talking about what's next. And what's next is the second trial election coming up this Saturday. And we started looking at well, how can we share our experience? How can we share something that serves as a foundation for the next board, the next set of representatives? And we put together a blog post that went out yesterday, I believe. And we really encourage participation. I think there's a whole lot of coordination and value that's going to come out of this process, and I can't wait to see the next board. It's going to be exciting to watch.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll make sure to put a link to that post that you all put together in the description. And all right, yeah. So, are you all participating in the upcoming election tomorrow? That's my next query for you, Mike.
I actually have a family event that's going to interfere, unfortunately, but I will be watching the videos immediately afterward.
Cool. How about you, Chris?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to participate. Yeah.
Awesome. John?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Okay. Ami?
I'll be there, and I believe we all invite the new members of the board to discuss with us and consult and learn from our experience, either publicly or privately or whatever they want. We're available.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So, yeah, I'd like to just open the floor. If you guys have anything that you really want to share in particular about this process, yeah, your key takeaways, things you want to see the community focus on. Like, let's dive into the wisdom that you've gleaned from your time as the serving board members. And I mean, if you want to be called on, maybe just like pop your hand up so I can bring you up. All right, Mike, take it away.
Sorry, watching video flipping around is a little confusing with my brain, especially on a late on the Friday. Well, repeat your question. I swear I have something to say to it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm looking for your insights and what do you think you want to impart to the future board, and any thoughts you have about the direction you want to see this move. Mm-hmm.
So it's actually interesting to deal with us being part of the trial election, the first trial election, because it's not official. It's a trial, right? If we look at the language of it, it's like, oh, we did this thing and it went this way and whatever. But I want to say the level, but the responsibility that I think all of us felt was pretty clear. Like, there were people who had spent hours in meetings to put us on top of this little pyramid, and we were given money that was theirs to spend, more or less. And so that experience of responsibility was really cool. Something called a trial election I wasn't expecting quite that. I mean, I didn't expect to advance even one level, so I didn't expect any of this, but it was really cool to find myself in a position of responsibility and to think from all those perspectives of the people who had bubbled me up. And then, like I said, once the budget was spent, I'd like to encourage the next trial election board, and then every board after that, to consider the next incoming group. This is an experiment. This is something that we'll be growing and learning from. So let's learn from each other and try to up the game each time. I think there's a lot to pass on, and we have a lot of ground that can be taken. We have tools now that have never existed before. And I think if each of us is kind of responsible for passing the brightest torch we can, I think we can get somewhere really quickly. So I encourage, like, own that responsibility, as I suspect everyone will, and then look to the future. Don't stop when your budget's spent. Look to what can you contribute and guide going forward.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Go ahead.
That's a good prompt. Chris, were you saying something, or did I imagine that?
No. Yeah, there might be a lag. It sounds like there's a lag.
Okay, let's go to John real quick. John, what do you building on what Mike was just talking about? What are some ways do you think that the future board of Eden can one up what you all have been able to do, apart from having maybe more funding?
I would. We did a good job with setting up a multi-sig at the very beginning, and the funds were sent directly to the multi-sig. It was very clear who had authority, and everything was very secure. Even though we trust each other, we still use the multi-sig functionality that's built into the blockchain because, it just helps make things more secure. So at the bare minimum, I think, future boards should do that and, have ongoing conversations guidance, participation in the community. Honestly, I feel like Chris went like above and beyond what I expected from the first board in terms of like how he was interacting with the community and kind of being a face to this whole thing. So like, I'm like, well, he set a high bar, you know, for the next board to try and meet. So I don't really, honestly, like, if you guys can do as good as if the next board can do as good as we did, then like I'd be happy. If they can throw something more in the mix, then I mean that would be fantastic.
Cool, Chris. How can the next Satoshi do it better than you did? And maybe we won't be called Satoshi in the future, but how can the next top rep and the board do it better than you?
Well, I mean, thanks, John. That's really nice of you to say. I don't know. I was just trying to be available. I mean, I dedicated myself to this. It was my full-time job, basically, is what I tried to treat this as. And I know not everybody's going to be able to do that. I was in a position where I could, so I did. And that's why I was so present. I think it's important, though. I think that's the way it's ideally. This is fractal governance, and I think there's a need for maybe fractal leadership in EOS. You know, we try to, we talk about decentralization, and yet sometimes leadership becomes this very centralized idea where we need one leader, right? Like Dan is our leader, or something like that. And I think and Dan is, but we could have more leaders that do maybe side tasks and tackle different responsibilities. And so I kind of see the Eden Satoshi and the board as this community aggregator. So, lead community engagement and lead growing the community and growing and building bridges between people and working on collaboration. And that was sort of my main focus, is how do we build like this, I talked about it before, my small town roots. How do we turn Eden into a small town type of thing where we get to know each other and we actually truly become a community and not just a superficial one based on association. So hopefully that's the direction that the next board takes and keeps building on this idea of collaboration. And I mean, again, thanks for the compliment, John. I don't know. I didn't try to do anything exceptional other than just be available in myself and answered people when they spoke to me. And so, I got lots of PMs from people who I think trusted me and felt comfortable talking to me, and that was flattering. And I talked back. I mean, I try not to be too pompous or I am the King Satoshi. So there's nothing like that. I just wanted to grow the community and be a part of it. So I hope to see that move forward. And titles kind of irrelevant, but it's nice, I suppose, and it gives people someone to point to, and hopefully if someone knocks on the next Satoshi's door or whatever they're called, they open it.
Following Chris's comments, I just wanted to add that I think voluntarism is a very important aspect that needs to be pressed on, and I think there's a lot of leverage that we can get out of this new structure, fractal structure. And every elected representative, even at the lowest level, can contribute a lot. Even with a small budget or a zero budget, there's a lot that can be achieved and improved for the whole EOS community. And it's not just communication, it can be education or helping one-on-one to people, because this pyramid is going to be wider and deeper, and we need to take advantage of that. And a small community where everybody knows everyone, or at least each time that you have new representatives, you can nag them and access them. And if you voted for them, then feel free to reach out and talk to them at any level. Mike.
I'll underscore that. That's a really great point. I think can't be understated. we're speaking from the perspective of the board, but to everyone else, right? We've been asked, and the questions come up in Telegram over and over and over again. How can I contribute? Man, no matter where you are in the final layout of people, you're a member of this community. If you have something to contribute, reach out, let people know. Ask your. Let's say you're not a representative. You're a member at the 0 level. Communicate with your level 1 representative. Ask them to pass it on to your level 2 representative. Bubble that up. You know, I think to I don't even remember who's making which points. There's so many good points here. In the EOS community, it is very decentralized. It's very, very flat organizationally, leadership-wise. And that leaves a leader to step up and say, I'm doing this thing, and then kind of recruit. We have an opportunity for people to offer, to push up, hey, I do this, how can I contribute? Let that be known. You know, if we bubble those things up high enough, then part of what the board could do is simply coordinate that activity. So Eden is a place to be if you are seeking to contribute more, and you know, push that information and make requests. I think that'll make things a lot easier and enable a lot in the community.
Very cool. Anyone else have anything they want to add to that? Or I'm kind of curious. So with the upcoming trial election and a new wave of some fresh blood coming into this, what do you all see as kind of like the main value proposition of Eden? Like, how would you distill it down as a clear value proposition for those who are yet to join, that may be thinking about it? Yeah, just curious what your thoughts might be in that department. How about, I'm going to put John on the spot.
You are talking about how new users are going to handle the trial election? I didn't quite understand your question.
Yeah, sorry, maybe it wasn't the most blatant question. I guess we're going to have a bunch of fresh blood in the trial elections tomorrow, and people are going to watch that, and hopefully be further inspired to take part in the process. What do you feel is the value proposition? Why should people pay attention to this process? Why should people get involved? Whether it's EOS community members that have already been around for a while, or new folks from outside of the community that are just interested in the process.
I mean, at this point in time, I don't really try to sell people on the idea of fractal democracy and Eden in general. I'm mostly just talking to people that are in the EOS community that feel lost, or they want to help, they want to contribute, they want to make a difference. So I sell Eden as like, this is our tool to do that, to enable individuals. And I was talking with someone, I was trying to convince them to come to the trial election, and he was like, I'll show up, but my vote's probably not going to make a difference. And I was like, no, that's the whole point of this thing, is that your voice does make a difference. That's why we're excited about it. That's it. Like, this attitude that an individual can't make a difference needs to be thrown out the window. And the only way to make it happen is to get people to show up and see it for themselves, I think, because everyone who was there the first round seemed to have like an overwhelmingly positive experience. But it wasn't really conveyed, I think, to the wider community as well as it probably could have. And like Felix did a good job with that video breakdown. that like 2-minute video that Felix made about the last election was the first thing that like my mom understood, about this whole thing. She was like, "Oh, sweet, I get it," So like, and Eden is just like, it's ripe for drama. It's ripe for this kind of political intrigue and everything. So I think people will enjoy following the process. That you'll be able to generate a lot of content, and some of that content might actually be able to go viral. So yeah, those are the reasons why I think people should participate today. I think, once we go live with like the real Eden or whatever, and we can show big results and show that it operates at scale, then I'd be comfortable going to people and selling the Eden idea, in a sandbox as like applicable to other, in other contexts, right?
Excellent. Ami, you have any thoughts on a similar nature?
I was so excited. I tried to invite more people to join as new members, and many times I got this reaction where people are deterred. They're not sure how they can contribute. They are not programmers, or they don't know how the process works. And I explained that in one-on-one chats or calls, and it was important for me to repeatedly say, don't feel pressured. You can you just go into this room and you meet new people, new members of the community, and you talk to them in a 50-minute call. And at the start, you go around and you present yourselves, and you can say that you are just voting. You don't want to be elected, and that lowers the pressure on new members. And also, I told people go vote, go watch the videos of the first trial election, but they're really long, and if you're not a part of it, it's a lot of hours. Even if you watch it, increased speed, it's exhausting. I wanted to watch all of them, but I didn't.
Yeah, it was nice to have some highlights. And Felix's video was really helpful, I think, for making that a little more digestible. Chris, your thoughts?
Yeah, I totally agree with what the other guys are saying there. It's funny. Everyone has this sort of preconceived notion of what voting means and what a democracy is supposed to look like, and then so you get the my vote doesn't matter because it doesn't matter in traditional democracy. And then me speaks to people who don't code. Well, hello, I didn't code. I still can't, and you don't need to necessarily. So I think it's going to take time to wear down these preconceived ideas and help expand people's minds to what this is. But that's okay. It's not a race. I think, like you say, there'll be some great content to be gathered from the next round. And I'm going to try my hat at trying to create some narratives and put some videos out that tell some stories that'll help kind of articulate these points. And I'm sure Felix will as well. So hopefully there's much more going around to help bring more people in. Back to your question, what's the value proposition? I think in general, it's this idea of being a part of community and the EOS community. Like, EOS has been a tough haul for a lot of people, and we're sort of waiting for someone else, i.e. Block One, to do something. And this is our chance to take charge ourselves, to take control of our destiny and not wait for someone else. And that, socialism is pretty popular these days, so maybe that's a bad idea. But I have a feeling most people still instinctively want to have control of their lives, and you may want to have control of the investment you have in EOS. And Eden is your way to have some control. Your voice absolutely matters, as John said. When you're in the first round, you get to influence the people who move forward. It's a small group. Doesn't matter who it is. Even if if this was the person who ends up winning, who's this, person who was well known in the community and everyone knows him, like say Dan, it's a real thing, and Dan was there. Dan's going to listen to you for 50 minutes if you get it. So it doesn't matter your distance of where you think you can never talk to someone. This is your chance to have influence. So I think that's really powerful. And the more that people realize that and actually absorb that as being a truth, I think it's going to really help encourage them to join. It's so empowering. It's such a flip from what we think we know about voting. Doesn't matter. No, it really does matter in this case.
Awesome, inspiring words. Mike, do you have any thoughts on this matter?
Yeah, apathy, voter apathy. I think that is going to be a big nut to crack. That is a mental model that's got to be broken, and it doesn't have to be broken because it has to be broken. It has to be broken because it just doesn't apply here. I think this process is incredibly unassuming. I think if you do it, you'll feel like, oh, I did something fun on Saturday, but you won't feel like you participated in some form of democracy. It's just so unassuming. You're going to get in a room, you're going to talk to people, you're going to come to consensus on who you're going to push up, and then you're going to sit back and watch, or you're going to move up and do it again. It's so unassuming, but it's not voting. I almost hate to use the word voting because it's so not how we relate to voting. So, the fact that in a community, if we take which base we're saying this in, you're a level away times the number of zeros in a population. You're that far from the top. So if you want to have influence, 10,000 people, right? That's only 4 zeros. It's only right. The distance between you and the top person is so small. And the distance between you and the next person up is just one step, right? One step makes so much difference. It's so unassuming. So I encourage you to participate. I encourage you to put aside the idea of the experience of apathy and just see what happens. I also think the other thing that will be unassuming and perhaps even what would be the word, like disappointing initially to some, is this is baby steps, right? We're in the trial election. Like, we got something done in the trial election. We got something useful done in the trial election. We're gonna have another trial election. It still isn't the real thing yet. And I think if we do little step, and the next little step, and the next kind of larger baby step, this is gonna add up, right? Journey of 1,000 steps, million steps starts with a single step, right? I don't know what, I'm sure Lovejoy can give us the actual quote, but that's close enough. We're going to be taking a bunch of small steps, but every step we take, ground that we take, that is now taken, and we can now take the next step. I don't think there's going to be that many of those kinds of steps, especially if the budget is growing each time, before we get somewhere really notable. And it'll sneak up. I really do think it'll sneak up on us. I think it'll be completely unassuming. And then all of a sudden we'll be able to look back and go, wow, it's only been a year, and look what we've moved. Stuff that we haven't been able to move, stuff that we haven't figured out how to organize all this effort to make happen. I think that's going to happen in the first year. So I'm super excited about that, if that's not super obvious.
Yeah, Mike,
Awesome.
Following that, I think that there's an aspect to decentralization and anti-fragility that is very different from regular democracy, where the issue or the main subject of a democracy each time is something else. But with the Eden process, each small group has their own agenda. The people that meet, just each one talks about what he thinks is most important and can advance EOS, and it's totally disconnected from the other groups, and whoever gets elected bubbles up and then gets to meet another randomly selected group of those representatives, and then each winning idea gets discussed in another small group. So these bubble up, but even if you are staying at that level and your idea didn't bubble up, you still get a budget, even if it's a small one. And you can, after the elections, during the whole term, you can continue talking about your subject that you believe is going to be beneficial to the EOS community, and somebody above you who has a larger budget might give you some funding. So it's not a done deal. It's not like, oh, I lost the election or I got to such a low level and that's it, and I failed my target. It's not like that at all. You can keep on advancing your ideas even after the election, and you can pick the ideas and make the group enthusiastic about them in a small group settings.
Awesome. Hey, so we're getting towards the end of our time here together today, and I just had one final question for all of you, and we'll start with you, Ami. What advice do you have in case anyone has a chance to watch this before the elections tomorrow? As we're recording it, it's tomorrow, but this will come out tomorrow. What's your advice for those who are either standing in the election or those who are attempting to select those who will represent them? And if you want to add any closing thought, go for it, because this is our final round.
Okay, sure. Stay curious and ask lots of questions, and enjoy the process and follow it through, not only till the higher levels and the representatives that your group voted for, and see how they're doing in their meetings, because all the meetings are recorded and are public. But keep in touch with them and other people in the whole voting process. We're available, and everybody wants this to succeed.
Very cool. Let's go to John. What's your advice?
My advice is actually just listen. Actually listen to everyone. Make sure, and if you don't understand something, then ask questions.
Okay, fair enough. Anything else to add before your final thoughts before we move on? Or
about the next trial election?
Just anything, because this is the last. These are your final words today, in this moment.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to, I guess, to me, the biggest priority for us is to make sure that we have something that's easy to point to. Like, it's easy to point to EOS Power Up and be like, the trial election helped fund this. So let's, for the next trial election, let's try and do that again. Let's have something that's easy to point to. Let's not get it too diluted into lots of small initiatives that don't go anywhere. So try to think big, but not too big.
Cool. Big but attainable. Mike, what do you have for us? Oh, I think you're muted. Yep.
I've never used video conferencing before. I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, bring your ideas and honor those of others. People want to contribute. Like, man, bring that contribution, bring those ideas. And when I hit the level of board, Chris had brought this. I mean, Chris and John actually both had brought this idea of, let's do something. Let's get a base hit, right? Let's get something done that we can point at. And I hadn't really thought from that perspective. I'm thinking kind of long term and Eden based or fractal governance based. And when I heard that, I thought, man, that's a really good idea. That would really have impact that we're interested in having. And so, I brought the idea I brought. Apparently, that was worth 2 votes to get me up to the board. Everyone in the groups was interested in that. But when I heard that, I was like, I know what I have discussed with my group, and I hope I'm honoring that with this change in perspective. But man, that's a great idea. And now looking back, man, so good to have something to point at. So I appreciate that idea, and I'm so glad that I could kind of make that mental shift in the 3rd round to be like, yeah, let's do that. It's worked out really well. So, bring your ideas and have an open mind to the value of others.
Excellent. And Chris?
Yeah, so for the people who are voting, I like to always think that this Eden process solves for trust. I think that's the most important thing that it does, is that it regardless of the projects, it's the people that rise to the top can be trusted. As long as it keeps doing that, this thing will be a success. Even if they represent a project that may not work, or it doesn't turn out as they had hoped, as long as the person can be trusted, this is going to work. So I think for the people who are voting, pay attention, try to ask thoughtful questions, look at your monitor, look at the person who's answering the questions, and listen to your gut, because this is a digital relationship. You don't see all the body language, but you can pick up a lot, I think, through just looking in someone's eyes, watching their expressions, their candor, how do they respond, and trust your gut. If you don't trust that someone's being honest, listen to it. Even though their words, people can, the sharp-tongued folks can say all sorts of things, but trust your gut. And if you don't think that someone's being honest, then go with that. I think that's really important for people to really listen to their guts and vote accordingly. And then for the people who are running, be honest, be authentic. Don't mislead. Just be honest. If it's a hard question that you don't want to answer, then just say you don't want to answer it. But don't try to spin circles and spin a web, because you're going to get caught. First of all, you got a few rounds to go, and people are going to be able to compare your answers round to round. So, you might have success in a particular election, but if it turns out that you kind of look like you were spinning a web, that might come back to haunt you later. So I think it's really important just to be authentic and be honest, and hopefully that will win the day. And try to be trustworthy. This is try to make this a process that absolutely solves for trust. So regardless of the projects, the people are what matter. The community is what matters. And that's what I really hope that's what this system keeps solving for. And that's why this is so applicable to the world at large. Because if it solves for trust, then this can apply to all of humans, right? Trust is a lost art, it seems, in this modern world of anonymity. And yeah, so I'm really excited about that. And I just hope that's what wins the day. And yeah, looking forward to it.
Awesome. Those are great words to end on, and thank you all for undertaking this crazy experiment of Eden fractal governance, and reporting back and telling us what it's been like, and showing up here today so that the Blocks Populi and Cryptowriter audience and the wider EOS community can get an idea for what to expect and what it's been like for you guys, and for sharing your wisdom and the knowledge that you've gleaned along the way. It's been great to have you guys.
Thanks for the opportunity, Brandon.
Yeah, thanks for hosting us, Brandon.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Absolutely. This has been another episode of Blocks Populi, and thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you all next time.